What's up, guys? So, I have been seeing the comments. A lot of people have been hitting me up on Instagram, mainly YouTube, though, because I do have quite a bit of new followers. And a lot of people, they just aren't in the know about this build. A lot of you guys follow me because obviously I got the bike projects, most notably the Turbo YZ 450 dirt bike, and then also my Ducati Gram, or the Panigale swapped Gram, which is alive and kicking. I've been beating the crap out of that thing for the last few months, or the last 2 months. But this is my main project right here. So for you guys that don't know, I have a 2001 S10 Extreme. It's a short bed, single cab. So the Extreme is the S10s with the body kit on it. I've always wanted one. Luckily, I got the opportunity to buy a mint condition one. I want to say maybe about like 3 years ago. So this truck has actually been through quite a few iterations of powertrain setups. So originally I was building a 427 LSX for it, twin 88 millimeter turbos. That setup would have made in excess of maybe like 2,500 or so. That's what it was capable of with the part selection. And had a power glide with a gear vendors, because obviously everything that I build, it has to be a street driver. I'm not really big on straight race only deals. It's just not my thing. No diss to anybody that does do race only and, don't drive their stuff on the street. That just isn't going to get it for me. So, so I had that set up all together. When COVID hit, I had the opportunity to sell that stuff because the parts availability was kind of quite a problem around that time. So I was able to make some pretty good profit off of that powertrain setup. Drove it down to Oklahoma and sold it to a guy. I won't disclose his name because I think it's maybe going in a grudge car. And then I stumbled upon this deal right here. So essentially what you're looking at right now, this is a Noonan 4.8 bore space water jacketed Hemi. This is essentially like a water jacketed top alcohol motor. So same architecture, same everything. The thing that makes this a little bit differently is you can see these plates right here all around the engine block and the heads. Those are basically a part of the water jacket. So it's basically like a solid block with external water jackets. Steve Morris actually has featured in this same engine, or not mine specifically, but this same engine on his channel a few times. It's actually set up pretty similar to how his SMX stuff is set up. So made to make maximum horsepower while still being able to do and compete in drag and drive setups. So I've been collecting parts for quite a while. Parts availability also was an issue with this engine as well. Mostly rotating assembly stuff. So the pistons and the rods. Go over here. I'm running a set of MGP connecting rods. This stuff I literally almost waited like a year for. So I don't know if it was material shortages or what, but it took quite a while to get this stuff. So also the valves. These had a pretty long lead time, but I kind of got lucky, and Summit, because since this is a package that Noonan makes, they kind of have like established part numbers for this stuff because it's a drag and drive deal. So they want to make parts somewhat simplistic to get for the people that are using this platform in that type of setting. So I was actually able to get get these right off of Summit, which is pretty crazy. So I want to shout out John Gentry for hooking me up with these two. But so primarily what I'm focusing on with this is mainly drag and drive events. So Sickweek, Dragweek, basically like all of those Tom Bailey style events. He has like a new event like every year, so I'm gotta kind of get caught up with what the new Rave is right now. But as far as the engine, I pretty much got all the parts for this. I got a Bryant crank, diamond pistons, MGP rods. This engine, I did set it up cubic inch wise to be a 540 cubic inch, 13-to-1 compression. And then I also have a set of forced inductions, 110 millimeter turbos. And I do want to state, because I do have quite a few videos on my YouTube channel of this, but once again, I got a slew of new subscribers, and I'm trying to get those guys up to speed because this truck is taking a priority again. I did have to take a break from it for a while. There are a few changes we got to make on the chassis. It's nothing major. It's probably like a week's worth of work. So get that stuff knocked out. It's actually slated to go back on the chassis table I think this or next week. So this is about to become a priority because I really want to have this thing out this year. As far as the transmission, I did toy around with the idea of putting a billet sequential behind it. Because like I said, I want to have more fun with this thing on the street more than anything. I mean, obviously do the drag and drive events and stuff, but I want to have fun with it. So that's why I'm incorporating a lot of the different creature comforts that, you know, that I've noted that the truck is going to have in the past. So I got a few of them over here. Obviously, vintage air. I will never, ever build a car without AC ever again. I'm getting older, so the AC is a must. So I got a vintage air system for it. I got the condenser somewhere around here, but a lot of this stuff I have just in bins and stuff until it's ready to go on the truck. I got a DCE. This is essentially a dynamic electric power steering system. This is a very good way to have modern power steering in a car where you don't want to run like a hydraulic reservoir, or I'm sorry, a fluid tank, hydraulic pump, and a hydraulic rack with those crappy lines and stuff. So this gives you like an additional like 60 pound-feet of turning force. And yeah, this is way more than sufficient, especially if you run like most drag and drive cars, like a 4-inch wide tire on the front. I mean, even if you had like an 8-inch tire on the front, this is way more than sufficient to give you adequate power steering. So that's the goal with that. It's also dynamic, so it's speed reference. So basically, like if you're at like low speed, it'll kick on the maximum amount of force, and then as it reads, let's say like anything above like 10 miles an hour, it essentially tapers the force out of the system and it goes to a complete manual steering. So that way you aren't having like loosey-goosey steering like up top. So I got a clear view filter for this. These things are, this is a huge chunk of billet, but this is basically the filter element that I'll be using on my engine. Davies Craig water pump. Still got to get some custom radiators made. I think I'm actually going to run, I guess it really comes down to where I want to mount the turbos, because this is kind of a, I'm in the middle of the road with deciding where I want to mount the turbos on this thing. Because obviously, like, the whole rear mount or bed mount turbo thing is a pretty big thing right now. And that would help me greatly because I don't have a lot of space up front. Originally, I was going to put these turbos in the grill. And the more I thought about it, because of the streetability that I want to have with the truck, I kind of want to put them in the rear, because it would also allow me to tie in a secondary exhaust system to where I could basically have the exhaust running through mufflers and even add to the streetability even more, because then I wouldn't have a, you know, crazy loud truck on the street. So I got all the mandrel stuff. I got all that stuff figured out. I did have to have some custom spacers made because I am running, the plan right now is to run dual fuel systems. This is how I had my LS set up. It's basically 3 sets of injectors, and then So you got 2 injectors for the max power system, which would be for alcohol, M1 alcohol. And then I would have a third set of injectors, which would be like a standard, like off-the-shelf Bosch style injector. And with the way that the intake is set up, you can kind of see straight from Noonan, this is set up for 2 injectors per cylinder. So more times than not, you want to have the alcohol injector mounted higher in the runner. That's just preferred because of the it helps with like atomization, and then you also get like a cooling effect from the alcohol injector being mounted higher in the runner. And then just the sheer amount of fuel, you want as straight of a shot into the intake port as possible, especially if, like in my case, like I'm thinking about running like twin 700 or twin 800-pound fuel tech injectors. This intake hasn't been modified yet, but luckily it has been outfitted with a single 1/8-inch MPT port under each runner. This is set up for something a little bit different. I won't go into detail about that, but this just makes it that much easier for me to actually use this as a plateau to drill out and then weld intake bungs underneath. So that'll work pretty good. For the street system, I'm probably going to run a set of like 275-poundish or 250-poundish injectors, because on the street this thing will run on E85, and then when I want to turn it up, take it to the track and put it on keel, that's when it'll run M1 or M5. But primarily this thing will see pump E85 for 100% of its street driving duties. So as far as the rocker system and valve train in general, the guys, Trevor over at Manton, actually hooked me up, helped me out greatly with this rocker system. These are a set of badass rockers. This is basically like one of the best rocker setups you can get for a 4.8 based Hemi, or just billet Hemi architecture in general. So want to shout out the guys over at Manton. And then also Martin Smallwood helped me with the camshaft design for this. That was ground by Billet. And then I'm running PSI springs and basically Manly titanium retainers and keepers, and Manly titanium intake valves and exhaust valves. So as far as the lifters, this engine is set up for a 1-inch Jessel lifter. It's actually kind of crazy because the lifters are oiled in reverse of how they would normally be, like on a small block Chevy style setup, or how they would typically be oiled on a conventional setup. So the lifters are actually oiled from the rocker arms, which is kind of crazy. Like, because this engine is set up for priority, like priority oiling. So you have these ports right here, and then I got a set of like braided cables that come off of these ports and go straight up to the cylinder head. And these 2 ports are essentially coming off of the main oil galley. So oil runs all through here. You got these little sprayers for each of the springs up top. Down low, you don't have that because these usually get covered in oil naturally just from gravity anyways. And then if I were to pull this rocker arm setup, I don't know if I'll be able to. Yeah, I think I might have this tightened down, but there is a orifice on each side of the head, like right in this area right here, that mates up to an orifice on the underside of this rocker pedestal, and that basically internally sends oil all through the rocker shafts and through the rocker arms, and then it sends it down from the push rod, and then it oils the lifter that way. So that's what I meant when I say it's not oiled in like a conventional manner. These are some really nice lifters, very expensive. Luckily, I was able to get a really nice deal on these on a local on a Facebook group that sells a lot of top fuel / top alcohol parts. So these were like brand new, and I got like 30 to 40% off on these, and they were like brand new in the box. So I want to shout out Chad. Sorry, I forgot your last name because it's been a while, but he hooked me up with these lifters. I think it's Chad Johnson, if I'm not mistaken. But definitely the way to go with this setup. This part number was actually recommended to me by the Noonan team as well too. This is what they use in their builds, so luckily I was able to get a deal on those. So and then what else ATI balancer. This stuff is all from Jones Racing. This did require some custom machine work on a few of the spacers as far as the register goes and stuff, but it wasn't too bad. All right, so this is a better look at the head. A lot of people love when I get these shots, but it's pretty crazy, like the craftsmanship that goes into this stuff, because like it's just like areas that the average Joe would never see, and it's just still beautiful. Like, it's pretty crazy. But obviously copperhead gasket. As far as the cylinder head stud, the head studs, this engine does use 9/16 up top and then 1/2 inch at the bottom. So you can see it's a 4 bolt per cylinder layout, or I guess if you want to count these two, because I think those are like 7/16 bolts at the top. But and then you can actually see the crank in there too. So I want to say a few months ago I was actually mocking this stuff up just to double check everything was right as far as fitment and clearances went, and you know, everything checked out. I actually got to get it's a special removal tool to take the crank snout off, because it's a press on. I actually had to heat it in the oven to get it on the splines, because I do have an RCD spline Hemi crank, which is like insanely strong. The reason I went with the RCD spline crank, because typically you wouldn't, since my combo is a turbo combo, it's really not a necessity to do that. But being as I like to switch stuff up, because when you run a screw blower, it basically requires you to have that that spline crank just because of the strength capability of it. I just went ahead and just grabbed it anyways, because it is, you know, it's one less thing that I'll have to change to in the future if I ever did want to put a screw blower on this engine, which I do like the idea of doing. But let me get this gasket off. Obviously, this stuff needs to be cleaned. It's a little. So, put that gasket off. And now you can kind of see how the deck layout is. So, it's really not any water transfer up here at all. The only area where there are water transfer ports as far as the deck goes is like far, far away from any type of like cylinder sealing. So over here in the corners of the heads, I had quite a few people ask me about that, so I just wanted to get a shot, show you guys kind of what it looks like. And then obviously you can see it's like O-ringed, because I guess the Hemis are like notorious for like oil leaks down here. This is my first time with a Hemi platform, so please don't beat me up too bad, but I'm just trying to learn as much as I can about this stuff just so I can know what I'm getting myself into. But that's pretty much the layout of that. But yeah, everything is pretty much coming together pretty good. Like I said, as far as the engine, I got all the parts for this now. So technically this can go together, but I'll just have to, I got to use these heads in order to fabricate the turbo kit. So that's why I'm not really in a rush to, you know, slam this thing together, because some of these parts will be needed for mock-up. Luckily, a buddy of mine actually lent me a TFX block. Dimensionally, it's the same as this. You know, all of the external bolt holes and stuff where it bolts up to the mid plate, all of that stuff is pretty much on par to a T. So I got that in my truck right now as a mock-up block. But yeah, things are coming together. It's just a few things I got to set in stone. Like I said, as far as like the turbo placement and what I want to do with that stuff. But for the most part, a big bulk of this stuff is like already knocked out. Here, just want to get an idea of the fitment. All right, so finally got the engine in. You see I got a turbo actually in the grill for mock-up. All right, guys, so now I actually got the heads on there. You can kind of see just for mock-up. But I still got quite a bit of space. I mean, you can see on this side right here with the valve cover on. Still, it surprises me every time how much space that I got, even though this is a big block Hemi. But you can see this area right here, actually got to send the intake out to get modified because I'm putting an extra set of fuel rails under here for the street system. But yeah, beautiful matin rockers. But it's like super tight underneath this cowl right here. You can kind of see. This is a camera focus. But yeah, I almost want to cut this out because honestly, it's just so tight. I still got a good amount of room to get, you know, fuel fittings back there and stuff. But the cowl is really the main problematic spot. But I think I had showed you guys when the LS engine was in here before I went Hemi, these bars were a lot narrower. So that's why these motor plates are short now. Because I thought we were going to keep those front bars, but we actually decided like last minute to widen them up. So now I might have to get new motor plates. So expensive lesson, but I would much rather just do it right than band-aid it. So well, it should be pretty simple. Like I've said before, the turbos are going up here. So don't pay attention to all of this stuff is getting, I bought this core support off of a buddy, so all of this stuff is already welded and stuff, but this is actually getting cut out. But just show you a little bit of the tubing up here. Nice welds. So yeah, so we'll probably make the turbo mounts actually off of the chassis as opposed to the core support. But going right in the grill, I am getting a new grill, and it will be recut because this one is off a little bit. But two big 110 millimeters right up in the grill. I don't get not much more ignorant than that. Kind of do a little pan around of the rocker setup. So, and then also the charge piping should be pretty simplistic up here too, because I am gonna try to do the new thing that a lot of people are doing with the E-gate on the code side, and I might not run wastegates at all, but that's kind of pending. Kind of trying to see more data on that, because I could save quite a bit of money if I don't have to run the traditional like hot side wastegates. So yeah, ideally I would just like to run the code side E-gate and just, you know, keep it a little bit more simplistic. But I mean, it's even crazy with how low this thing is. Let me see if I can get a side shot, because it's like slammed. At least the rear is. Rear is like slammed. But a bit of space underneath the car. It's probably like a good foot from the bottom of the oil pan to the ground, even with the truck this low. So, but yeah, still running the stock dash. This might have to get cut up a little bit more, but more than likely I'll probably just end up getting all this reupholstered, like Alcantara or something. And then all of this stuff is getting powder coated, so I don't really mind the color. But I am doing something a little bit different. I know a lot of people might bash me for this, but I am running twin drive-by-wire throttle bodies. So that'll be something a little bit different on a setup like this. You can see I do have to send this intake out though to get modified. Because if you look in there, the throttle body opening is actually bigger than the intake opening. So I need to do like some type of like taper mill just to blend everything nice and smooth. But that's not a big deal. I already got that stuff in the works because I'm gonna get that done at the same time when I send the intake out to get the fuel rails and stuff added on. So, but yeah, trying to chip away at it little by little.